So, second week, new video again. That's it, 2 weeks in a row. Can you believe it? I've finally done it. I'm Johnny the Strength Coach. If you haven't seen this video before, if you're new to the video, this is all about training to failure for strength. If you want to check the previous video back, whichever direction, for training to failure for muscle growth, is it a good thing or not? Obviously watch that video. Now, is training to failure for strength a good thing? And the meta-analysis shows, drum roll, it's more straightforward than muscle growth training to failure, but there are caveats to it. And is training to failure for strength necessarily a good thing? And the kind of answer is no, but there's also reasons why you should train to failure, or at least near to failure. So, like the last video when I went over training for muscle growth, yet again, experience does matter, genetics do matter to a degree, accumulative fatigue does matter to a degree. So check that video back now, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about, but I won't touch on those subjects again. It's sleep, diet, genetics, bone structure, type of training, how long can you train for, injuries. There are so many reasons why you might not or should not go to failure, but the studies are a bit more clear-cut in the strength. When it comes down to it, actually leaving up to 4 reps in reserve, RIR, is actually a good thing for strength. And training like the traditional 5x5 way, or other ways where your training modalities are working to near failure every time, plus 90% or 95%, which is a bit more subjective, especially depending on training experience. And of course, the differences are you going to mechanical failure or technical failure? Yeah, again, I spoke about this on the last video. Mechanical failure is where you're absolutely broken down. If you say doing a deadlift, your back's rounded, your hips are up, everything goes wrong. Then you've got technical failure, where your technique is perfect, but if you do another rep, you know that mechanically it's going to go down to, mechanical failure overall. So technical or near technical failure is best, but you should leave up to 4 reps of technical failure in reserve. And the reason being is the accumulative fatigue isn't as bad. When it comes to strength training, you do get a lot of chronic fatigue, nervous system, tendon problems. It does affect your body and stimulus of your body a lot more. So I would say training, this is anecdotally speaking, training 3 to 4 times a week of strength training is good. And then of course you want to do other modalities of recovery, mobility drills, making sure that you're staying nimble, mobile, and even some cardiovascular training for your general health. That way you won't get the accumulative fatigue that you would normally get if you were training 6 times a week as a powerlifter or a weightlifter. However, there are, yet again, some people genetically that can do that several times a week, and that is down to them and their genetics only. You've got to figure out what works for you. So talking about kind of genetics in this matter could be very good for individuals. So mechanically, structurally, I have longer arms, you've got shorter legs or medium-sized legs, good sized torso. You might be good and better at deadlifts. For some people, they might have more explosive muscle fibers, so that might be good for Olympic weightlifting. And their hips do matter as well, so they can get deeper in the squat with a narrower stance. Some people need a wider squat, which means they might be better at deadlifts because they can't get quite deep into the squat. So genetics do matter for the type of sport you're doing. So I personally, anecdotally, or just personally, can do deadlifts once a week when I'm fresh. Maybe I can do it twice a week, but the cumulative fatigue that does on my body is horrendous. I can train bench press 5 times a week. Does not bother me at all. My chest recovers really fast. For some reason, there are certain body parts, for some reason, even if they're weaker, they can recover fast and you can train them more often. Squats the same. It's good to program them in and realize where your strengths and your weaknesses are and work on them. But if I did deadlifts 3 times a week, my back would be put out. I can guarantee you that. And you might be able to do deadlifts 3 times a week and go, bitch, just a bitch. Yeah, maybe I am. But at the same time, maybe there's a point to why genetics do matter when it comes to certain training. So you need to work with your strengths. And you also need to work on your weaknesses, but realizing you have to optimize your weaknesses. So if you can only deadlift once a week, general conventional deadlifts, are there other things you can do like RDLs? Maybe you can do kettlebell variations that are much lighter, but you're still getting the technical form down. But leaving reps in reserve will allow you to work on smaller areas, other muscles, if your goal is to also build, muscle mass as opposed to just strength. if you're just trying to purely build strength, you want your lighter days. You want your heavier days where you can go up to your near 1 rep max, which is great, but you couldn't do that, daily, and you couldn't do that for several weeks because you will 100% get injured. So working for maybe singles could be a good thing for you. So yet again, singles where you can leave up to 4 reps in reserve. So that is your 5x5, but you're working in singles. And if you feel like the volume isn't enough, build more sets into your singles. I would say overall now, looking at the literature, just burning out and grinding out those reps isn't the best way forward. Eventually, like I say, the cumulative fatigue and injury potential goes up. However, compared to other sports, injury potential is a lot lower, even with ego lifters, even with people who do work to failure more often. Those people can get stronger doing that, but personally speaking, and for a lot of my clients, and what the studies show and suggest, that actually training lower loads, and sometimes lower volume, can be really beneficial for your overall strength. Your recovery is faster, you can build up that strength gradually and more in a process, rather than just grinding out those reps for the 1 rep maxes all the time, or 5x5 all the time. Also, this other thing called velocity or speed training. Working on speed with much lower loads is phenomenal for your overall speed output when it comes to force production. So you've got force equals mass times acceleration. Whatever mass you shift, if it's moving very slowly or accelerating very slowly, your force output is going to be lower. So actually going much lighter weights, maybe 45–50% of your load, and working on speed and performance, which is what we call conditioning in strength and conditioning. Conditioning is a particular thing you're trying to condition your body to do to increase or enhance the performance of your body. So acceleration training is good, tempo training, so pause deadlifts where you're weak in components technically, where you have weak muscles. Building those components in with much lower loads is going to be very, very good for your overall strength. And then finally, when you've built up an entire program around that, you can gradually, for maybe a week, block or 2, work to your 90–95% of your near failure for your strength, just to test it out. And then go back to your old methodology of training, or new methodology if you've never done this before, which is speed output, tempo output, building up your gradual strength over time, as opposed to just chasing that holy grail, that strength, that 1 rep max, that PR. It's not going to happen every week. It's not. But it will happen over time if you allow it to. If you're consistently ego lifting, if you're consistently lifting to failure because you think that is the better way, I guarantee you won't hit your PRs. If anything, they'll start to deplete. And if that is you, and you can see that happening to you, recognize it. Maybe take a step back, have a look at how your training should work, your training modalities should work. Is there weaknesses? Is there technical breakdown? Is there speed training you can work on? Is there something that you are capable and able to do to improve and optimize the training? Even if, yet again, going back to the muscle building video to failure, if it's sleep, if it's lifestyle, if there are choices with food that you could improve upon that can optimize your training just that little bit more to get that new PR. Now, I would love to say, and back my 20-year-old self would say, ego all the day. I would be like 1 rep max, 3 rep max, fucking just grind it out all the time. However, I also realize that's not sustainable, especially the longer you've been training. Maybe when you first start training, you get those newbie gains. It's good, you can get those reps out, your body's fresh, it's new to training, it's not as well fatigued as it would be over time. And of course, now I'm not in my 20s anymore, I'm in my mid-30s, and of course I have to be more careful with the way I train. I'm not 20-something-year-old anymore, so age, of course, as well as genetics, does matter, and optimizing your training and becoming more educated over time will be a massive improvement to your training processes in order to get your PRs, to grow strength, or like the last video, to grow muscle. And as the science says, over time the science will improve, and I'll update you, and I may even correct myself even from what the meta-analysis say from overall strength training. I hope you've enjoyed that video. If there's any programs you want to go over, or you want to talk about a more individualized plan for yourself, I do have a link below for my strength training. Of course, I can individualize your plans a little bit more. So drop comments below if you want any topics or updates on what you think you could improve upon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. I believe my next one's going to be a tricep video. I may do that very soon if you're lucky. If you like this video, and of course comment and share this video, I'll definitely do a new one, because that shows me my audience is engaging. That shows me that I can put more videos out there so I can give more free and crucial content for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.